Congressman Hank Johnson, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start off with some reaction that we got from you via a statement after this bill passed the House. You said that this bill is going to help millionaires and billionaires off the backs of everyday Americans. You continue to say the irony of this very day, Democrats were working overnight in the Rules Committee to make this boondoggle less hurtful for working people. You mentioned that there were some amendments that Democrats were trying to make. What were those amendments that got shut down by your Republican colleagues?
Yeah, well, I put forward two. One would have been to provide um, legal counsel for infants and children who get caught up in immigration proceedings, unaccompanied minors who find themselves before an immigration court. They deserve to be represented by counsel. And so that was one of the amendments that was shut down. And then the second one, most importantly, was one that would have taken out the provision in the bill that would keep federal district court judges from being able to enforce their judgments against the Trump administration. Um, that was ruled, that was not accepted either. And my colleagues set forth a host of other amendments during that all night session at the Rules Committee that started at 1 a.m. And the only reason why they started it at 1 a.m. was trying to use the cover of darkness to accomplish what they did not want to be seen in the daylight. And that was a gutting of the healthcare system, Medicaid having its biggest cut in history, and the SNAP program suffering its biggest hit in the history of this country, while at the same time we give the biggest tax cut in history to billionaires and greedy corporations.
I want to ask you, Congressman Johnson, about one of your Republican colleagues who was originally one of the, I believe, five holdouts. That is Congressman Andrew Clyde. He eventually flipped his vote, in part because that bill was amended to have work requirements for Medicaid start earlier in 2026 next year instead of 2029. Congressman Johnson, do you agree that able-bodied people, people who are able to get up and work, not those without dependents or those with disabilities, able-bodied people should work to receive benefits like Medicaid and SNAP?
Yeah, most of the adults who are on Medicaid are already working, and they already have jobs. And so what this requirement actually does is puts more paperwork in front of those people who are on Medicaid to have to sign up and sign in and sign out, and doing all of this within certain deadlines, and these being reoccurring or recurring deadlines. And so the net impact is that people who are working and who qualify for Medicaid, which of course is for the most the poorest people, even working people. But there are many working poor people who are living in their cars. And so when you impose these reporting requirements on them, it's designed to cause them to not make those deadlines, and then they are taken off the rolls, and then you're able to save that money that would have gone to their health care. You're able to save that. And so that's how they are cutting. That's one of the ways that they're cutting Medicaid so that they can give this tax cut to billionaires.
And Congressman Johnson, just to be clear, you do believe that people should be working, able-bodied people should be working to receive benefits like Medicaid and SNAP. You just don't agree
I
with
mean,
the restrictions that they're putting in place for the deadlines and things.
most of the people who are receiving Medicaid are disabled and unable to work. That's why they don't. That's why they fit the eligibility requirements for Medicaid is because they are disabled and unable to work. And so when
And
you
I just want to
when
go
you
ahead.
force disabled people, and when you uh, and by the way, most of the recipients of Medicaid are children and also elderly people. And so when you're cutting Medicaid, you're also cutting them. But there's no way that you should require disabled people to have to work in order to receive their benefit.
I just want to make sure that I'm being clear. So the bill, as it stands, a disabled person, a person with a dependent, they would not be required to work, right? They're talking about folks like you and me who can get up and go to work every day. Do you feel that that is something that should stand?
Well, no, because that part of the bill also provides these onerous reporting requirements that I just explained to you, which are designed to force people off of the voting rolls. And so you're already dealing with people who are poor, but they're working. They're doing the best they can. And if they qualify for Medicaid, they should receive it. And Georgia has some of the strictest requirements uh, in in the United States for receiving Medicaid, and it has a work requirement. That work requirement, by the way, has produced a lot of money for consultants and has kicked a lot of people off of Medicaid, and has not been, and that's all that it has accomplished, not uh, cutting people who should not be receiving Medicaid from the voting rolls. There is the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that they claim is in Medicaid is minuscule. And so what we have is people being hurt by these work requirements that Georgia imposed, and it's not fair, it's not right. While others are getting a tax break, who don't even won't even feel it. They have so much money that extra 189 or a couple of $1 million, however much it is just a drop in the bucket to them.
Congressman Johnson, were there any parts of this bill that you did agree with that you could have, if Republicans would have come to the table with it, maybe Democrats would have had some bipartisan support? And I want to point out two things specifically: the no taxes on tips or overtime. Some constituents here in Georgia would probably welcome that. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, when it comes time to get your Medicare or to receive Medicaid benefits, putting your loved ones in nursing homes or assisted living facilities because they are unable to now take care of themselves, you want those programs to be funded. And so, but they have to be paid for. And so everybody has an obligation to pay their fair share of the tax burden. For far too long, we've had the tax burden falling on working people, while the wealthy, the well-to-do, and the well-connected don't pay taxes because they have the wherewithal to get tax cuts, or excuse me, tax loopholes into the tax system that enable them to avoid paying taxes. And so our entire tax system is unfair towards working people in this country. And so what we have with this, they call it the big beautiful bill, but actually it's a big ugly bill. What they have with that big ugly bill is trying to fix an ugly tax system that does not work, has not worked, and I do not support the bill, the big ugly bill. I do not support it.
Congressman Johnson, just to clarify here, what I think you're saying is even though these tax breaks might come for people, the no tax on tips or overtime pay, it doesn't compare to the tax breaks those in the 1% would be getting?
No, what I'm saying is that we all should pay our fair share. And on a practical matter, who reports tips to begin with? Cash money put into a tip jar and spread among the employees, or you leave a tip on the counter, a cash tip on the counter for your waitress, or you give, or you put it on your credit card. But which waitress do you know, or other recipient of tips has been required to report those tips, or actually reports those tips? So that's like a giveaway that makes one feel good, but in practicality, it has no relevance. And then on overtime, I mean, if you're paying taxes on wages, let's pay taxes on wages. And for those people who have to work overtime, I mean, they deserve to get time and a half for that overtime. But, just like everyone else, you should pay taxes on what you make. And that same rule goes for the big shots, the billionaires, the millionaires who don't pay taxes, and the wealthy corporations that have all kinds of schemes that enable them to avoid paying taxes. Those are the folks that need to be paying taxes also. And so we cannot hollow out our system where we can't provide for the common defense while also promoting the common good. We've got to do all of those things, and I support a tax system that's fair, not one like we have now that feeds on working people while letting the rich, the powerful, and the wealthy and the well-connected escape their obligation to the greater good.
So you do not support no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. You say everybody needs to pay their fair share of taxes.
I say everyone should pay their fair share. Workers are already doing so. To cut our taxes at a time when we are already, I just don't think we do ourselves any good by throwing out a couple of crumbs to working people when they are the ones who are paying this tax burden. They are the ones who are shouldering the tax burden that should be shouldered by everyone else. And then we're going to cut taxes for them at times when they are going to need the services that the taxes that they pay are providing. And so, no, I don't want to cut Medicaid, which people will need. I don't want to cut Medicare, which is also being cut under this big, ugly bill. I don't want to cut SNAP benefits, because the same people who you're cutting the taxes for going to need those benefits. Those are people. Uh, they are young people. They are children. They are our elderly. We have a responsibility to each other. And if we don't have the revenue with which to accomplish that, then we're hurting people. And so I don't want to put us in a situation where we're cutting our noses to spite our faces.
Congressman Johnson, now that this bill has passed the House, it's going to head over to the Senate. There's expected to be a lot of discussion, potentially some changes as they try to make that July 4th deadline. What is your message to your fellow Democrats in the Senate, who many of them agree with what you're saying right now, but also those Republicans who could be holdouts to where this bill goes?
Yeah, so, Republicans need to hear from the people of this country, MAGA Republicans, who are in elective office and who are frightened of Trump. They need to hear from their constituents. They need to hear that we don't want Medicaid cuts so that you can fund the biggest tax cut in history for billionaires. We don't want you to cut SNAP benefits so that people like Elon Musk can buy another yacht. Uh, we believe that everyone in this country has an obligation to work hard, to play by the rules, and that playing field should be level. And we need to be working on those things as opposed to just the Donald Trump uh, gilded age where he, having received a $400 million gift this week, where he, having sat at a dinner with people who paid him for access to him, buying his meme coin, he's profiting off of his position. Um, you you senators, you MAGA Republican senators are following his lead, doing what he wants you to do. You're afraid of bucking on him, and it's the American people who deserve your support. And so I want the American people to turn their attention now to the Senate and let these senators know that you expect more from them than simply allowing Donald Trump to line his pockets and his billionaire buddies to line their pockets while at the same time getting a tax cut off the backs of the people who elected you. So the people need to get out and let their MAGA Republican senators know where they stand. And Georgia's fortunate we have two Democratic senators. And so, that's a good thing. Count that as two votes against the big, ugly bill in the Senate.
Well, we will certainly see where the Senate decides to go with that. Congressman Hank Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.